Happy Friday night, everyone. This is Jason, man. The Simpademic. My hair's kind of sticking up here a little bit. I actually had to take a shower last night because I turned off the water to the apartment building for maintenance today. So I actually showered last night initially, and then, of course, if you go to bed with your hair a little bit wet, of course, this is kind of the result. Considering I just had a haircut and lost the Danny DeVito look, I am here right now, and I'm kind of piggybacking on last night's subject just a little bit, and I want to talk about how can men do better. And it's a big part of ending the Simpademic, and there's so much out there about how modern women are bad and how modern women suck and things like that. And I completely get it. There are a fair number of women out there that really do suck. But there's a lot of men that suck too. And so I'm just going to kind of lay this out there for us, because I think if both genders learn how to do better, I am certain that we would have a better result if everybody kind of focuses on doing their part to do things a little bit better. Excuse me, talking too much today. Once again, it's dry because we're going to be below zero again tonight. It's not good for the old throat. But anyway, how can men do better? Well, I kind of started it last night. Don't be creepers. We're going to end the creepidemic. And then we also need to end the Simpademic, because women are not going to respect men who grovel, simp, and give unwarranted attention. At least not any of the good women. Now some of the sucky women out there, I think, will do that, and will try to take advantage of that. But men can end that cycle by not doing that as much either. And so I think it's very important right now to take a look at everything that happens on social media with a bit more of a nuanced view, kind of like how I view my politics, with a very nuanced view of things. The dynamic between men and women, in my opinion, is similar. We need to look at how we can do better ourselves, and not... I think it's one thing to be red-pilled. There's another thing entirely called black-pilled. And, us red-pill guys, we simply just don't care about the whole dating and that type of pursuit anymore. We've deprioritized it and have put the focus on improving ourselves, as I just mentioned. And, I think if you step back from dating, in my particular case, as a matter of self-preservation, because I've been hurt in that realm quite a bit before, because, as I mentioned, some women do suck. And I've honestly been able to take a look at some of those situations myself. And I don't think there's really much I could have personally done anything I could have done really any better in those situations. I'm a very detailed and thoughtful person. When I wanted to approach that lady at church, I thought long and hard about how I was going to do that first. And I thought the church was a safe place to approach. Obviously, in this particular case, it was not. However, I thought about it very strongly. I thought about, let's just think about doing a simple brunch. Just simply express that, hey, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better over brunch after service sometime. We were both volunteers at the same church, and that is what I did beforehand. I didn't do anything that was unthoughtful. I made my approach in front of, with a large number of witnesses there, so that if, there's any accusation of anything ridiculous going on, it was visible for everybody to see. So I thought, I planned things out. I'm the guy who was somebody in one of my old jobs, about 20 years ago or so, said, yeah, that's Jason. He always has a plan. This was no different. I had my own plan. And I think being thoughtful and have plans when you do things like that is very, very good, because then you can look back at it. And if you're trying to figure out what you did wrong, but if you were thoughtful, detailed, considered everything that you were going to do, and if it doesn't pan out, or in my case, I caught a lot of backlash, I can honestly look at all the steps I took in this particular scenario and say I did everything I could correctly. And yet this woman still reported me to the pastoral staff. And so I thought about what my next move was after that. And of course, that was to go back to the church I had previously left. And I'm still there to this day, because I left there because I was in a small group of men, and they were basically providing cover for a man who was abusing his wife. I didn't want to be a part of that, so I debated. I asked somebody else about where they went, and I made that move. I prefer to play chess and not checkers. I prefer to sit there and look at the board and think and ponder and deep think about every move that I make. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. Sometimes you do have to make decisions on the fly. But I think those situations are actually a relative minority compared to what happens in day-to-day life. Another way that we as men can do this is to set our boundaries and have our convictions set in advance, so that if we are presented with a situation where we make the decisions on the fly, our personal convictions about those matters are already dwelt in ourselves, and we have already built that structure for ourselves. So I already had a conviction that I did not want to support men who were involved in domestic abuse. It was just a conviction that was already built within me. And that made the decision to leave my past and current church in a situation where I was dealing with a group leader who was covering for an abusive man. In a way, I made that decision before this situation even came up. So one way men can do better is to build convictions that allow you to make quick decisions in very critical situations, because you've already done the work and done the thought process to make the right decision, because it's already thought out in advance. It's a beautiful tool to have. But so then fast forward to the situation where I asked a nice, who I thought was a nice lady, out to brunch after church. I wasn't like, come back to my place or come to your place. No. I want everything I do to be in the light. Being in a busy public place for brunch, I think, was the perfect idea. I had thought all that out, but then it backfired, because extreme feminism, and again, some women suck, but not all, but some of those values for modern day feminists have even infiltrated the Christian church. And so, as a guy who doesn't necessarily meet those particular qualifications, I've talked about hypergamy on this channel before, but if you, even when you make the best, most thought out plans based on conviction, beliefs, and consideration for other people, it can still backfire, because again, some people suck. And so, But then I was presented with another situation. The next step in that chain of events was deciding what to do next after that particular confrontation and that decision. Again, I had to sit down and pray and think a lot about that next move. And the next move was to go back to Eagle Brook Church here in Minnesota, come back home again, talk about the entire situation with the campus pastor. And he basically said, you know what, if this happens again to you with a small group, come to me. Even if the group is based at a different campus, he promised to have my back if this happens again. I appreciated that. So my deep, deliberate thought came out to another good result. And so another thing that I thought of was like, anytime I see a lot of this social media content, to deeply analyze everything. So a lot of the manosphere content out there is presented by what are called faceless channels. And I've had this subject be an episode before. But a faceless channel, once again, is where it's a channel where the person who is creating the content, it's not their voice, they're not identified, they're not in front of the camera, as opposed to here, where it's clearly me here. I don't give out all the details on myself, but anybody who picks up my posts within Facebook of episodes, they know who I am, and even on Twitter X, my identity is not entirely concealed. But on a faceless YouTube channel, men who create this content use AI. They can use general imagery. They can use a AI-generated narration. Excuse me, it's that throat thing again, being dry. But those channels, those men, there's no way to find them. There's no way to locate them. So I have to take what they say with a little bit of a grain of salt and understand that, yes, a lot of what, there's always going to be a grain of truth in almost every piece of content on social media. But the way that we men can be better is in how we consume this type of social media, and fully realizing that these people cannot be held accountable. And I think that's why they've gone the faceless route, is because they don't want to be held accountable for their content. They don't, their employer might view their content in a dim light. It may be putting their employment at risk because it can be seen as sexist. It can be seen as otherwise unsavory in the 21st century context of, it doesn't really fall under DEI per se, but under the guise of objectionable content. In my particular case, excuse me, I actually pursued having End the Simpademic have compliance review with my own company, for outside activities. Fortunately, they said that I didn't even actually have to do that. But I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm risking my own personal vitality. And I didn't want to go the faceless route because I want people to know that I'm a real person and that I'm a real content creator. And I'm really here to present views and help people to the best of my abilities. And so that's why I'm not a faceless creator. Now, a lot of faceless creators do this so that they don't face the consequences in their workplace of employment. They don't risk their jobs, but they also can't be held accountable for the materials because nobody knows who's actually creating it. And so, yes, a lot of this content does have truth to it. They do talk about situations where a lot of us men have endured. However, it's usually not 100% true either. The situation, when they discuss, hypergamy and women always trying to find the next best thing, that much I see in a lot of cases is true. It's not true of every woman, but it is a pretty widespread thing. The whole thing about them wanting a man who is 6 feet tall, makes a six-figure income, has six-pack abs, those qualifications, with a fair number of women in the modern environment. Again, there's also some truth into that, because I see a lot of it. Again, one of my childhood friends in Texas grew up believing that. And the man had to make more than she did. And in the 90s, she was making $200,000 a year, which turned her dating pool into, it's not even a puddle, it's an eye drop at that point. And unfortunately, she's now 54 years old, never married, no children, and with a fair amount of regret over her insistence on having a man who made more than her. And in her case, that's very nearly impossible. At that particular income level, she was basically searching for a demographic of men that is 1/100% or 0.001% of American men who make that type of income and are still single. And so the manosphere has done its fair share of poisoning the atmosphere. Feminism, particularly at the extreme ends, has done the same thing on the women's side. The goal now should be to be able to look past that both ways, figure out ways to improve, and kind of make baby steps towards each other. And we can meet each other in the middle. If women can tone down their expectations, if men can relate to the red pill content in the manosphere, and yet at the same time taking it with a grain of salt, knowing that that type of content is made for attention and views. So some of those content creators are guilty of a lot of the same things a lot of women are. And it's doing things to get attention, to get views, and to go viral. Look past that on both sides. Come to a common understanding. Men, take a look at this content. It's been a revelation for myself to even look at this particular content and look at it from the other side. Kind of like I do with my politics. I try everything I can to listen to people on both sides of the divide and understand why they think what they do. Why do men think what they do? Why do women think what they do? Why do Democrats think what they do? Why do Republicans think what they do? I'm not going to say exactly where I'm at politically, but I will say this: I am not on either extreme. I am at a place where I can agree with specific viewpoints on both sides, but I don't agree with anybody on everything. In that regard, I'm kind of a unique creature. And itchy skin strikes in this dry, low humidity environment. Strikes my skin, strikes my throat too. But anyway, so the theme of tonight is basically for everybody to do better. Men, don't look at the manosphere channels and just 100% hop on board with everything, but yet at the same time pick out points that you can empathize with and relate to, but don't buy the entire thing wholesale. Women doing the same thing on the other side. And then also have your convictions built in advance so that when you're faced with a tricky decision, you're ready for it. But then also to be able to make decisions quickly as well. And to be able to stand firm. And always be prepared to answer. So anyway, this is Jason here with the Simpademic. It's my longest edition episode yet. As I'm looking at the timer here, been going on for quite a while, but it's been very important for me to discuss how we as men and women need to get better. Don't be the Chad chasing woman who needs to have the excitement and thrill and create drama. And of course, plenty of men are guilty of the same thing. Just be prepared to build a constructive and peaceful life. And don't ever look at any extreme by hook, line, and sinker, but at the same time recognize your own weaknesses and be ready to improve to, men and women to meet somewhere in the middle eventually. I'm not going to make any illusions. It's a long process. It took a long time to get to this mess. It's going to take a long time to fix it. But that is my challenge for the day. Figure out a way to get better. Just a little bit every day. And someday, I think we will all be in a better place together. And women believe that they don't need no man. And even as a man, I don't feel like I need a woman, but I would love to have one. And I'm going to work my way towards that happy medium that I think we all need to meet at somewhere. Because I don't think society is going to be able to, I don't think American society can continue with men and women as divided as they are, with the political extremes as divided as they are either. So that's my spiel for tonight. It's my $2, not 2 cents. Just a challenge for everybody. Just do better. Take a minute to reflect on what you can do. And I have done a lot of this myself, and I will continue to do it. So, yes, be better. And have a great weekend, everyone. This is Jason with the Simpademic. And speaking of being better, it's the weekend. Don't do anything stupid. Don't drink and drive. Preferably like my Twitter friend Sherry in Houston. Don't drink at all. But at the same time, if you do, don't drink and drive. Call the Uber, call the Lyft. Even if it's on surge pricing, that $200 fare is going to beat the $10,000 to $15,000 you're going to pay for court costs, fees, attorneys, tickets, higher insurance, whatever. I think somebody calculated that to be about $15,000. Whatever you pay to get home is going to cost you a lot less. So anywho, I will be working tomorrow. I'll be back with another edition. Probably going to piggyback off this again. And anyway, I will see you all tomorrow, Saturday.